Harden Engineering. We're the maker of the Switchblade guitars, and good to see you. Well, I've been building guitars for 10 years, but this model I've been doing for about 1 year. And what it is being a repairman and a builder for the last 10 years, I wanted to put the best parts of a lot of different guitars into one guitar in an original way. And the Switchblade is a combination of a Telecaster and maybe a Les Paul. We got a Gibson scale length of 24 3/4 with a set glued in neck for better sustain, easier playing. And then the pickup, which we make ourselves, and this plate here are good to get a real good kind of heavy Telecaster sound.
So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
It's kind of a combination of a number of things, right?
So you got people that are looking for, and I've heard people say this, they like aspects of a Fender, they like aspects of a Gibson. Like I've heard that I like the Gibson neck, but the Fender sound.
That's kind of what this is. Also, being a repairman, we try to build out the problems that these companies have. For instance, Fender guitars buzz a lot. People don't like that. They want it to be quieter. So we really shield our guitar well, and this is a twangy sound, and yet it's not so piercing that if you're playing a gig, the people in the front row are going to have their ears hurt. A lot of problems with Gibson is, you know, the headstocks break. I've had, you know, 100 SGs in here with a broken headstock. We access our truss rod from the bottom here so that there's solid wood here, and it stops the neck from breaking. Yeah, so we're trying to build in, you know, features that I think are kind of wrong about guitars, and take the best of things, but also in an original way. And this is completely handmade. We make it all here by hand.
Okay, so essentially you got a luthier shop in here as well. I mean, you're not just you're making the guitars and.
Well, originally this was a store, but as the guitars progress, they're actually taking up more of the business, probably 70% of the business.
So do you distribute them yourself, or do you have them, you know, I mean...
there's a couple stores that carry them. Chicago Music Exchange carries one. A place called Fat Tone Guitars in Northbrook carries them. Otherwise, I only make about 2 a month. It's completely made by hand, so usually by the time I'm done, somebody wants to buy it. So.
And do you have what does one of these cost? What does the Switchblade cost?
They go from start at about $1,200 up to $2,500, depending on what kind of features you want.
For a handmade guitar, that's a pretty good deal.
It's very affordable, but that's what we're trying to do. Is, you know, Chicago has a history of making instruments, and the problem with a lot of handmade guitars is that most guys can't afford $4 or $5 grand. Since we're a new company, we're trying to get the guitars out there. Similar to the way Fender and Gibson started. I mean, Gibson started making guitars on his kitchen table, Orville Gibson. Fender started making guitars in his garage. We make them in the exact same way. We actually make
You actually have a store, though, so you're ahead of them.
So it's yeah, that's right. And so that's just kind of carrying on the true history of American guitar making, of actually making everything instead of just taking a bunch of parts made in Japan and putting them together and putting our stamp on it. This is actually handmade in America.
Well, let me ask you some questions. I've talked to a lot of people recently about making guitars, and I'm interested in it. And the one thing, what do you think the hardest part of making an electric guitar is? What's the trickiest thing?
Well, for us, see, we make our own pickups, which is unusual. Most people just, they make a guitar and they buy some other person's pickups and put it in there. So developing a pickup that's got kind of an original sound that I like took a long time. And winding that is somewhat difficult. Aside from that, the hard part of making a guitar is there's for somebody just starting it, the main thing is a basic geometry. You know, do you have the right kind of neck angle going? You know, there's some geometry going on here. Once you got that, it's just a lot of hand work. Probably the hardest thing getting a guitar is finishing it to make it look good. That's hard.